Good evening, and thank you all for joining us this evening to meet and hear from the candidates for Clear Creek ISD Board of Trustees, Position 5. My name is Ashley Quinones with Memorial Hermann Health System, and I have the pleasure of serving on the Board of Directors of the League City Regional Chamber of Commerce, as well as the chair of the Chamber's Legislative Affairs Committee. The League City Regional Chamber of Commerce is proud to introduce the candidates to our community. While the Chamber does not support one candidate over another, we do want to provide a fair, impartial forum for you, the voter, and assist in informing you about the candidates' views in their own words. More importantly, we encourage you to vote, as our future depends on it. Before we begin, I'd like to also let the audience know that candidate Katy Esthay will not be joining us this evening. He has discontinued his campaign. A copy of the email he sent to TJ Alls with I-45 Now is on the screen for you to read. Although he is no longer running, his name will still appear on your ballot. Now, please, let's meet the candidates for Position 5 for Clear Creek Independent School District Board of Trustees. And in alphabetical order, they are Jay Cunningham, the incumbent, and Christine Parizo. For background information about the candidates, feel free to visit ccisd.net. We encourage you to read about each of them. And now at this time, I would like to introduce tonight's moderator, Dr. Glenn Freedman. I'll turn it over to you, Glenn.
Thank you, Ashley, and good evening, everyone. The question for tonight's League City Chamber Forum have been framed to elicit responses reflecting how each candidate would make decisions as a board member. We have questions from the community, and we have questions about CCISD issues and programs that board members would be expected to know about. And now, here's the format for this evening. First, we'll have introductory comments from each candidate, and these will be up to a minute each. Then, we'll ask about CCISD issues. They'll be asked questions about the issues facing the Board of Trustees, and these will be 2-minute responses featuring a question that each candidate will answer, and we'll go back and forth with those. Third, we'll have a fast and furious round where each candidate will pick a number between 1 and 10. I'll read the question corresponding to that number, and each candidate will have up to a minute for their response. Then we'll have questions about District 5. This section deals with the home district of the two candidates and how they would represent their residents as a school board member. Fourth, another fast and furious round, and followed by closing comments. And the closing comments will be 1 minute each. The candidates are being notified of their time on the side, which they'll be able to see. Now, let's get started. We'll begin with our opening comments, and as we have in the past, we'll begin in alphabetical order. Mr. Cunningham, we'd appreciate hearing from you. Your opening comments, please.
Well, first of all, I wanted to thank the League City Chamber, Ashley, for helping, with the introductions, TJ Alt for broadcasting, and of course, Dr. Freedman for moderating tonight's event. Also, I wanted to welcome those viewing at home. Welcome. Hopefully you get a chance to see us talk about the issues. As the 6-year incumbent of District 5, I feel uniquely qualified to continue to serve our constituents. And I look forward to the opportunity of addressing the issues that the district will be facing, and more importantly, what our district will be facing in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Ms. Parizo, your opening comment, please.
Thank you, Dr. Freedman, and thank you, Ashley, and thank you, TJ, for setting this up. I got into this race to advocate for every student, family, and taxpayer in the district. Every child in this district deserves a high-quality education and to be held to high standards. We need to make sure that our safety protocols are based in sound science and that our schools are kept open for in-person learning. We also need to make sure that we have a sound infrastructure plan before we can go back to the taxpayers and ask for more bond money. That involves a lot of careful long-range planning to avoid gratuitous spending. And I'm also running to increase transparency into board and district decisions. Taxpayers deserve to know where their money is going, and it should be easy to find and understand CCISD policy. And that's why I'm running. Thank you
very much. Thank you both. Let's start by taking a look at some CCISD issues. We'll have 3 rounds. These will be 2-minute responses. These are questions that have been submitted by the community. And for those of you at home and everyone else, the questions will all be superimposed on the screen. We'll start with Ms. Parizo. In recent months, there seems to have been more conversations about a curriculum program that does not exist in CCISD than about what does. Specifically, something called critical race theory. 2 parts to this question. Some say this is a real threat to our children. Others say this is another example of culture wars spurred by social media. First, what is your position? And second, if CCISD is not even considering this, why is it an issue?
Well, first, my position is that critical race theory has absolutely no place in our schools and in our society. It's a threat to the very fabric of our society, where we are supposed to accept each other and love each other as we are, not judge each other by the color of our skin. It is a direct affront to Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream, where people are judged by the content of their character. I don't support CRT, and I don't support one red taxpayer cent going toward teaching people to hate each other, hate themselves, or hate our country. And it is an issue in CCISD because policy can be changed with a simple 4-3 majority vote. Any policy can be reversed, or it can be added in. So it will be an issue for as long as it's making national news and for as long as other school boards are trying to put this into the curriculum.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cunningham, same issue, same question. Appreciate hearing from you. You have 2 minutes.
All right. CRT is a hot button issue. Fortunately, here in the great state of Texas, it's not a part of our curriculum. I do not foresee it becoming a part of our curriculum unless our state legislature changes and decides to add it. As mentioned before, we follow the TEKS, which is the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. That's what we do to make sure that when our students are moving from one grade level to the next grade level, that they have mastered all the knowledge and skills that grade level dictates. I do not foresee anything like CRT being added to our curriculum in the near future. And furthermore, I think I can speak for my fellow board members as we strengthen our board policy not to introduce divisive materials into our schools. So I think it's fair to say that your board does not support CRT. I do not support CRT. I think that we are more creative in terms of being able to deal with those issues, and I do not see those racial issues and divide within our community.
Thank you. Thank you both. The next question also came from the community, and it relates to the pandemic. Mr. Cunningham, we're going to start with you on this one. A little over a week ago, some parents sued Katy ISD for keeping a mask mandate, specifically about Katy's requirement that students wear masks in hallways, buses, and other common areas. Both the governor and TEA have said that this is a local school board issue. First, is masking primarily a public health or a personal choice issue? Second, do you side with the parents or the school district on this issue? And third, what is your position on how CCISD should address masking?
So as was just passed in our workshop on Monday night, we are continuing our safety protocols through the end of the year, including summer school. I know that they are going to reconvene the Safely Reopened Committee, of which I was a part of that committee last summer when we looked at how to open up our schools. So is it a public health or is it a personal choice? It's a public health. So although we always look at our situation and we're sensitive to our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, when you're a board member, you have to look at everybody. That includes your students, that includes your staff, that includes your auxiliary staff, whether it's people that are dropping off uniforms, people that are there to do cleaning, people that we contract with, etc. So not only do we have to look out for the safety of just the children, but we also have to look out the safety of our staff. I think, once again, if everybody stopped and looked at what Governor Abbott said, he said that it was left up to each, school district to determine what is best for their district. So once again, we follow TEA guidelines. We take a look at CDC guidelines. We also consult with our local health officials in determining, what we're going to do. So I am proud of the fact that we're going to continue that. And as I said, I think that by the fall, especially as people are getting vaccinated and things of that nature, I foresee us probably having
Wait, we've hit our limit on time. Thank you.
Gotcha.
Ms. Parizo, would you like me to repeat the question or do you have the parts?
Could you just repeat the part about the Katy ISD lawsuit, please?
Yes, some parents sued Katy ISD a week or so ago for keeping mask mandates, specifically about Katy's requirement that students wear masks in hallways, on buses, and in other common areas. Both the governor and TEA have said that this is a local school board issue. And my question to you is, do you see masking as primarily a public health or a personal choice issue? Second, do you side with the parents or the school district on this issue? And third, what is your position on how CCISD should address masking?
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Freedman. As many people know, my own personal beliefs about masks is that it should be a personal choice issue. But that said, we need to be making our decisions based on sound science, recommendations from local experts, and from studies from around the world. There was this fantastic study done over the summer in sequencing genomes in Iceland that show that children are very unlikely to catch or transmit COVID-19 to adults. That plus the developmental issues for younger children wearing masks, as well as some of the doctors I've spoken with have been treating more cases of strep throat and thrush because of the masks. We need to make sure that we are balancing our masking policy with what is best for our teachers and our staff, but also what is best for our students. But we need to make sure that we are basing our decisions in sound science, not in fear. And as more people get vaccinated, I don't think we will need to continue to have masks in CCISD. I actually agree with the parents on the lawsuit. Governor Abbott's executive order regarding masking the first time around was anyone 10 and over needed to wear a mask, and school districts have been requiring all students to wear a mask, even though it's not developmentally appropriate at the younger grades, and it's actually very unsanitary for them to be wearing masks and touching their faces all day. So my position is that the masks hopefully should be completely gone at the start of the new school year.
Thank you very much. And don't go away, because the next question starts with you, Ms. Parizo. And this one's related to your role on a board. There are 4 core decision-making realms for a board trustee member: governance decisions, financial decisions, personnel decisions, and strategic decisions. Which of these 4 areas do you believe is your strongest? Which may be your weakest? And what evidence do you have to support this self-assessment?
I'm kind of a policy nerd, so I would say governance is my strongest. I'm very invested in creating sound policy and making sure that policy works for the people the district serves, the students, the families, and the taxpayers, and not against them. I would say that my weakness is financial, just because I don't have a lot of experience managing large budgets. That said, I am extremely good at learning complex concepts and breaking them down. I work as a technology content marketing writer, so I write about the most obscure and difficult types of software. And I don't think it would be a problem for me to pick up on how the funds are managed at all.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cunningham, same question. Would you like me to repeat it, or do you have it?
Nope, I got it. I would say my strongest is going to be governance. Everybody thinks of policy making and things along those lines, but really governance, when you look at the school board, is dealing with, advocating for public education, advocating for your students and your teachers, advocating for your taxpayers, making sure that coming up with the superintendent targets so they know which direction the district is going, and then implementing that plan and working as that team of 8 together. So that's the governance piece. A lot of times you'll see board members try to step off into the administrative piece, which is what the superintendent does. So I would say governance is probably a strong suit. When it comes to the other 3, I guess I would say maybe personnel would be a weakness, although I feel comfortable with all 4 of those core decision making, because as mentioned before, I've done that for the last 6 years. But personnel, we have such a wide district with 44 campuses, 7 high schools, 27 elementaries, and the rest are your intermediates. You're keeping up with your personnel decisions, because a lot of times your administrative, those folks are going to be moving within the district. And so keeping up with who's going where, who are your next future leaders, et cetera, sometimes that can be a challenge.
Thank you very much. And don't go away, Mr. Cunningham, because you'll be leading off the next round.
All right.
And this is the first of our fast and furious rounds. These are 1-minute responses. I've got 10 questions here, and I'm going to ask each of you to pick a number between 1 and 10, and corresponding to that number, the item will show up on the screen, and that'll be your 1-minute prompt. So, Mr. Cunningham, could you please pick a number between 1 and 10?
Let's go with 2.
Number 2. Okay, this is a free association question. I'm going to say 5 different words or phrases. You tell me the first word or phrase that jumps into your mind for each one. Are you ready?
Yes.
The first one is STAR test.
STAR test. I would say assessment, which shouldn't be used to judge our kids.
Okay. Team of 8.
Collaboration.
Superintendent.
Head administrator of our district.
Your opponents in this race.
Thankful that they have decided to step up and put themselves out there in the public eye, because it's not easy.
Merit pay for teachers.
I think that's a performance incentive to help incentivize your teachers to, go above and beyond.
Thank you. Ms. Parizo, your turn. Please pick a number between 1 and 10.
7.
Number 7. Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, comes to your house for tea. What would you ask him about schools and the pandemic, and why?
I would ask him why he didn't push harder for schools to reopen, considering that by all accounts, it's been very safe for kids to be in school. We haven't had any major outbreaks. I've been looking at other districts. Again, no major outbreaks. I would ask him why he's walked back his recommendations, why he is now saying that if you're vaccinated, you still have to wear a mask, you can't travel, and you still distance. But mostly, I would just want to know why he didn't push harder for schools to be open, because that contributed to so much learning loss and so many mental health issues in so many children that it was heartbreaking.
Thank you very much. And I hope you enjoyed the tea.
Sure.
Mr. Cunningham, your number, please.
Let's go with 4.
Number 4. Teachers have had extra stresses because of the pandemic in terms of their health concerns, instructional volatility, parental interaction, and so forth. Given all of that, do you favor having Clear Creek ISD pay for mental health and wellness support for teachers, and why?
Sure do. Dr. Freedman, this pandemic has affected everybody. When we actually got the call during, I remember it vividly because I was at my son's baseball tournament in Alvin and it was canceled. So I know the strain that the students have gone through. I know the strain that parents have gone through, and I know the strain especially our teachers have had to go through in terms of adjusting the way that they teach. So I would be in favor for CCISD to help pay for and provide those mental health services, because like I said, this is something unique. We provide that to our students. Back at after Santa Fe, we added, additional counselors to help with the social and emotional, well-being of our children, and we should do that for our teachers.
Thank you very much. Ms. Parizo, your number, please.
3, please.
Number 3. TEA, in fact, you anticipated this question. TEA has estimated that students' pandemic-related learning loss will be at least 3 to 4 months this year on the average. What might the district do to help kids catch up?
One thing I've seen at my son's school that has been a big help, he goes to Creekside, is that there have been tutoring hours in the mornings, and that's been a big help for kids to get up to speed. One thing that we can do is continue that, as well as employ or get interns to help tutor children to get them back to where they are at grade level, but not lower our standards. We need to make sure we're holding our kids to high standards so that they are ready to move on to the next level, that they are ready to go on to high school, to college, to a career, or to the military.
Thank you very much. And last question in this round, Mr. Cunningham, a number between 1 and 10, please.
All right, let's go with 1.
Number 1, a National Science Foundation study found that we have up to 60,000 thoughts a day, with 80% being negative and 95% being repeats of the previous day's thoughts. What positive and negative thoughts do you have when you think about the Clear Creek ISD School Board?
Positive thoughts I have are majority of our board members are lifelong learners. And what I mean by that, they've worked within our schools as volunteers. They've come up and volunteered for various committees. And they know how our district works. They have established and forged relationships with our administration, teachers, etc. Some of the negative thoughts I have is I wish that more people understood our role, I guess. And so sometimes that can be frustrating because we're immersed in it and we understand it, but a lot of times our public doesn't necessarily understand the role of a trustee. I know when I first started, people were asking, can we get rid of the football coach? And I'm like, that's not what we do, So that's one of the negative.
Thank you. Ms. Parizo, last one in this round for you. A number, please.
9.
Number 9. Well, someone else came to tea. Senator Larry Taylor, our state senator from here in District 11 and chair of the Senate Education Committee, came to your house for tea. What would you ask him about this session's education legislation or education in general, and why?
Well, looks like I have to clean my house a lot, doesn't it? So I would definitely ask him about some of the bills that are pending. I know that there is one that would outlaw CRT across the state, which would be fantastic. It's one of the House bills. I would be asking him about House Bill 1776, which would strongly encourage districts to display the founding documents on all district property. I can't stress the importance enough of knowing what our country was founded on and what it means to have that kind of starting point. And I would also ask him about what kind of funding that schools are going to be able to get for the upcoming year. I'm still not sure what kind of funding we're going to get for example, online learning. So I would want to know that.
That's great. Thank you very much. Now we're off to the next round, in which we will be asking questions about District 5, and you'll both be answering these questions. We'll be starting with you, Ms. Parizo. Here's the first question. District 5 is in a section of League City that's growing. Assume that growth dictates the need for new schools. Within the next 10 years, what do you foresee the growth being? And given that growth, what facilities would you support for a school bond?
Well, as I mentioned before, I would support a school bond. I would want to see us have a long-term infrastructure plan that addresses everything, including new facilities. I do know the district will need, at the very least, a new elementary school. The McAllister tract is going to be developed shortly, and there's already, I believe, 2 elementary school sites scoped out on there. Which one it'll be, I'm not sure. But it is growing. I don't know what the growth will be, especially if we continue to have clear connections and what our in-person versus online learning will look like. But again, I wouldn't support a bond until we can create a plan for how we're going to address our aging facilities and for our current infrastructure.
Thank you. Mr. Cunningham, same question. Would you like me to repeat it, or do you have it? You're muted.
Okay, I think somebody thought that was my phone ringing, which it wasn't. But in regards to District 5, we're in a unique situation in that we actually have land, and it's being developed. I tell people long term, you're looking at a intermediate school to relieve the overcrowding at Creekside, and also to account for the elementary school that was just opened, Campbell. So for sure in intermediate, and then within 10 years, possibly a high school. The reason why I say a high school is Clear Springs is one of our larger high schools. You're roughly at close to 3,000 students already. And that's gonna have to be addressed as these youngsters from the elementary matriculate to intermediate and then move on up into your high school levels. I also will say, as Christine mentioned before, that McAllister track and some of the development, it's actually pushing south. So you're going to run into a situation, Marbella, that we ran into on the west side, where you're going to have folks that are going to be moving into Magnolia Creek and some of these other, very nice subdivisions, thinking that they're in CCISD, and really they might be in Dickinson or they might be in Santa Fe, which is not a problem. But the programs that we have to offer and some of the services that we have to offer differ from those 2 districts.
Thank you. Mr. Cunningham, we'll start with you on the next question. What are the most important issues on the minds of your constituents in District 5 right now? And how would you provide positive leadership in addressing these issues?
Some of the most important issues I think facing our constituents right now is getting through this pandemic. As mentioned before, when everything started last spring, it was unknown. Nobody had ever faced this before. So, and as we moved into this year, and when you look at the start of the year compared to where we are now, you see the differences. You see the differences in graduation. Last year was 4 guests. This year it's 10 guests. You see things starting to open up. We were able to have sports, UIL. So I think as we move into the 2021-2022 school year, those are some of the things. Online learning, for example. Online learning, we never had that on the scale that we did. We did provide some online learning for people that had medical issues and some social and emotional issues that dictated that they stay, and learn from home, but we've never had anything on this scale. So I think moving into the 21st century, moving into, what next school year looks like, I think that's weighing heavy on the minds of our constituents right now. And then, as mentioned before, the growth of our side of the district, it's going to continue, and we have to account for that. We do have long-range plans for our facilities and for our maintenance, and those are handled through our bonds. So,
thank you. Ms. Parizo, the same question. Would you like me to repeat it, or do you
I've got it. Thanks, Dr. Freedman.
Sure.
One of the issues that I've been hearing a lot as I've talked to people is just about the curriculum in general and what kids are learning, and not just things that are controversial, but just, are their children learning? Are they being held to high standards? Things like letter grades, or being required to pass science and social studies in intermediate school, or reading lists. I've heard a lot about taxes and the fact that there's another bond coming. People are worried about, how are we going to pay for this, especially if we have another bond coming, then taxes will go up. And right now, when people are still recovering from the pandemic-induced recession, it's a lot to ask. We need to make sure we're cutting costs and improving efficiencies, and we also need to make sure we're addressing growth and planning for that. Those are the things that I've been hearing. And I would be remiss if I didn't say I've also been hearing a lot about special education and how a lot of parents have felt that it hasn't gotten better. And there have just been too many stories of children who have felt like they've just been a burden to the system. And all I can do is listen and try and find a solution for these.
Thank you. The next question, Ms. Parizo, we'll be starting with you this time. This is about how you go about making decisions. Describe for us how you go about making decisions that benefit all of Clear Creek ISD while still engaging all of the people that you represent in District 5.
The first thing is, again, it's about listening. It's about when somebody contacts you about a decision that's coming up, to really pay attention to them, to really get to the heart of what they're trying to say. Because when somebody contacts a board member, they often see that as their last resort, and the buck does stop with the board. And that said, decisions that I would make would be based with logic, with data, with all the decisions I make for my business in particular. It's based on data. It's based on numbers. It's based on, I do a lot of back and forth testing, and I look at the data from that before I make a decision whether or not something is working. And CCISD also has the wonderful committee model. So I would be looking at what committees are coming up with as well before making a final decision on anything or voting on anything.
Thank you. Mr. Cunningham, same question.
So when you make decisions, you have to have a wide range of data. And how you get that data is it's provided by the district. You have to be out and about in your community. You have to go to events. You have to talk to all your constituents and stakeholders. And a lot of times you have to make decisions that may not personally coincide with what your beliefs are. But as mentioned before, you're making decisions for what's best for all. What's best for all, not just a small group. What's going to benefit, your particular situation. So they are tough decisions. I remember when I first stepped on the board, the first thing, that was said to me is get ready for some of your neighbors, friends, etc., to look at you sometime and be like, why in the world did you make that decision? Right. But you have to consult with, you have to gather all the decisions. You have to have various discussions with folks that don't agree with you. And in many cases, you have to, talk those things through. And more importantly, after those decisions are made, you need to make sure that you're addressing those, especially with the folks that may not have agreed with the decision that you made. So that's why you see me out and about within the community. That's why you see me at various events. That's why you see me all across the district to gather those data points.
Thank you. And Mr. Cunningham, we'll be starting with you for this question. There are times when a board member must abstain from voting on an item due to a conflict of interest because of a family member's involvement, a donor's involvement, a vendor's involvement, or a personal involvement in the results of some vote that might benefit you personally somehow. Two parts. Do you currently have any conflicts of interest that voters should be aware of? And secondly, what is your responsibility if you suspect a board colleague has such a conflict of interest?
Well, first of all, Dr. Freeman, I do not have any conflicts of interest. I don't do business with the school district. I work for a national HVAC company, Honeywell, in their controls for their residential new construction. So I don't have any business dealings with the district. And furthermore, I do have a freshman at Clear Springs High School. I think that if you suspect that a board colleague has a conflict of interest, you should follow our board protocol and make sure that that is known, that the board president knows that, and you have the discussion with that board member, about asking if they do have a conflict of interest and if they should abstain. So I think that's how you address issues like that.
Thank you very much. Ms. Parizo, your thoughts on that topic?
Well, I don't have any conflicts of interest. My business works with companies in the business-to-business technology space, and it's no local businesses at all. So if I suspect a board colleague has a conflict of interest, then my first step is just to talk to my board colleague and ask them to do the right thing before I say anything. And that's what we should be doing as human beings, just taking somebody aside and saying, look, I suspect that there's a conflict here. I hope I'm wrong. But if there is, please recuse yourself from this decision.
Thank you. Ready to go to the fast and furious round again. 1 minute responses. Mr. Cunningham, we started with Ms. Parizo last go round, I think, and we'll start with you on this go round. Please pick a number between 1 and 10.
I'm going to go with 5.
Number 5.
Go with 5.
I will mention the names of 2 popular Clear Creek ISD programs. Tell me what makes them distinctive. The first one, Leader in Me, and the second one is Inside CCISD.
All right, I'll go with A first. The Leader in Me program is an excellent program. It deals with our strategic plan. And as part of our strategic plan, it deals with responsibility, it deals with character, it deals with trustworthiness, etc. So that's why the Leader in Me program, I think, is unique. And I think that those programs, in conjunction with the work that the Education Foundation does in terms of fundraising and helping supplement those within our schools, is worthwhile to build that well-rounded student and individual. Inside CCISD, I think, is an excellent program. It gives you a snapshot into some of the things that our youngsters are doing. I'll use this as a prime example. Years ago, I was privileged, and I don't want to date myself, but I think this was.
Oh, we hit the time limit. Ms. Parizo, a number, please.
3.
Okay. This is an agree or disagree, and why? And here's the question, or here's the statement. School board members should feel free to criticize CCISD employees on social media, in public appearances, or in any conversation. Agree, disagree, and why?
I think after you're a school board member, you're held to a different standard. And when you say criticize, that could take a bunch of different forms. For example, it could be a critique of a decision, such as a decision to keep schools closed, or a decision to, any kind of a decision. And that's different than criticizing a person. I don't think that there should be personal attacks. I don't think it should be so-and-so is a terrible person and should be fired. But criticizing decisions is a healthy part of discussion, and it needs to be completely protected.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cunningham, a number from you, please.
I will take, let's go with 10.
Number 10. Every candidate says that he or she is running because they care about students and their learning, because they care about teachers and their work, because they're strategic thinkers, because they communicate brilliantly with parents and other citizens, and because they're dedicated to being good stewards of the public dime. So, beyond these 5 givens, what makes you worthy of our vote?
Well, beyond these 5 givens, Dr. Freedman, I think, is your body of work. What have you been doing out in the community? How have you been engaging your constituents? Have you been present, etc.? So I think when you look at what you bring to the table, have you taken the time to understand budgeting? Have you taken the time to understand taxes? Have you taken the time to understand how, the school functions? What's the role between the superintendent and between a board member? I think all of those are important and things that you should bring to the table, because quite frankly, this isn't a learning on the job.
Thank
position.
you. Thank you. Ms. Parizo, a number from you, please.
7, please.
Okay. Clear Creek ISD is a Texas District of Innovation. What does that mean?
It means it's one of the top districts in Texas. It means that it has programs and policies in place that make it one of the more desirable districts for people to live in.
Thank you. Mr. Cunningham, a number from
I
you.
will take, I did 10, let's go with 1.
Okay. This is an agree or disagree, and why? Parents should be required to pay additional fees for their kids' instructional costs so that taxpayers with no kids in the district can pay lower taxes.
I'm going to disagree, and I guess one of the things that I would ask is if you could define instructional additional fees for instructional costs. Do you mean like people with no kids in school should pay a different tax rate? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Because the difference is made up by the tax rates that are lower, not that they're paying a different tax rate. Tax rates are lower because costs are offset because parents are paying additional fees.
I don't think so. I think there's a reason why people move to our community. It's for, and quite frankly, our public schools are the hub of our community. And I think if you polled all of our constituents, that's the reason why probably 90% of our, folks have moved to this area is because of our school district. And when their kids were matriculating through school, the opportunities that were provided.
Thank you. And the last one, Ms. Parizo, what number, please?
What numbers are left?
2, 4, 6, 8, and 9.
6.
Okay. CCISD has launched the Naviance website for students and parents. Why is this an important innovation?
So from what I've seen of the Naviance website, it looks like it is a career and college planning website to determine what your path should be. It's a good starting point, but it's not everything, because just because you, as we know with something like the STAR test or the SAT tests, the tests say one thing, but the person could actually be drawn to something entirely different. So we need to make sure that we're pairing that with effective college and career readiness preparation, so that children who college isn't their path are able to choose a career that interests them, or if their choice is the military, to make sure they're ready for that, or if it's to go directly into the workforce, like something in oil and gas, that they are ready for that. So it's a tool, and it's a good tool, but we need to make sure we're pairing it with the appropriate human interaction to back it up.
Thank you. Well, you've done a great job of staying on time, on task, and answering the questions. Thank you all very much. It's now time for your concluding or your closing comments. Mr. Cunningham started the opening comments. Ms. Parizo, please, you have 1 minute for your concluding comment.
All right. The most important part of being a trustee is representing the students, families, and taxpayers in the district. That requires empathy. That requires listening. That requires being ready to advocate and to make hard decisions, which aren't necessarily the easy decisions, but they're the right decisions for the people that you represent. It means making changes where changes are needed to be made. It means making sure that every child in this district is set up for success upon graduation. And most importantly, it means that every single person feels like they're being heard when they come to you. That's the most important part of being a trustee. We are the guardians of public trust. Our first job is to advocate for the students in the district. And that is what I will do as a trustee.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cunningham, your concluding comment, please.
All right. Well, first of all, Dr. Freeman, once again, thank you for moderating. Ashley, it was great, seeing you as well, and TJ for, providing the platform where all of our constituents across District 5 get a chance to watch us and hopefully learn a little bit about us. As mentioned before, I didn't, just start attending events. I didn't just start getting involved. I've been involved over the last 13 plus years, working within a lot of you know me as a parent, a teacher, a coach, an advocate. You see me attend various events, and that's so you guys get a chance to see the support. You guys get a chance to approach. You guys get a chance to engage with me. I think that's important. As mentioned before, I've enjoyed the last 6 years as the incumbent of District 5, and I look to continue to push and advocate for our children into the 21st century.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank you both. I very much appreciate your willingness to serve and your commitment to our community. This concludes the questions for this evening. And with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Ashley Quinones for final comments. Ashley?
Thank you, Dr. Freedman. As always, you did an outstanding job. And thank you, Jay and Christine, for your time. You both did an outstanding job as well. This concludes the forum this evening for CCISD Board of Trustee position number 5. As a reminder, early voting begins next week on April 19th. It ends on April 27th. And then election day is May 1st. And as we referenced at the beginning of the forum, you can check the ccisd.net website for more information, including the voting location nearest to you. And with that, I want to thank again our friends at I-45 Now, TJ Alls and his team do an incredible job. Thank you, TJ. Also, again, thanks to Dr. Freedman for moderating. And most importantly, thank you to everyone who has watched this evening or will be watching in the future. We really appreciate your time to learn more about our candidates and get out and vote. Thanks so much.